Good morning, BTLM, Bachelor of Transport Logistics Management class, second year, and welcome to the Statistical Analysis course. Last time, just before the lockdown, I remember it was a Thursday, and we just covered a little bit of weighting models. We still had inventory models and networks to cover. Before I proceed, let me welcome you back to class after so many months of closure. I remember some of you are celebrating when it had just been declared that universities and all schools had been closed. But I think you can see the price you have paid for this long stay at home. So welcome back, and I hope you are keeping safe and hope to meet maybe during the time of examination. So today I'm going to take you to inventory control models as our next topic. But before I go to that, I want to give you an example or an exercise on weighting models, which I believe is necessary. We have not had time to cover each and every course in detail. We are just looking at the essentials that can help you for your course and for decision making in life in future. So I take you back to weighting models. And I want to conclude this with an example. And I will read it to you because I may not have time to write each and everything. Time is not on our side. And this example is as follows. Please pay attention and record somewhere or take a note if you are able to do it. Example, Enhas. Uganda Limited is a clearing and forwarding firm. That handles cargo at Entebbe International Airport. Full stop. Each day, approximately 25 cargo planes, 25. Approximately 25 cargo planes. Approximately 25 cargo planes land to offload their cargo. Full stop. The operations manager wants to establish whether to hire 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or 5 cargo unloading cranes. Cargo unloading cranes. Whether to hire 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 cargo unloading cranes to unload these planes. Over time, the manager has established that the average waiting time per plane will be 100. Average waiting time will be 140 minutes with one unloading crane at work. 80 minutes with 2 cranes at work. 50 minutes with 3 cranes at work. 40 minutes with 4 cranes at work, and 30 minutes with 5 cranes at work. Full stop. The manager has also estimated the cost per minute that a plane waits to be unloaded to be at $1. The manager has also estimated the cost per minute that the plane waits to be unloaded to be $1. In other words, every minute that a plane spends idle waiting to be unloaded costs $1 on that plane. The cost can be in terms of parking fee, it can be in terms of other requirements or penalties. Requirement. If the rental cost, that is the cost that the money that you spend for hiring a crane per day is $1,000. If the rental cost per crane is $1,000, determine with a justification the number of cranes. Determine with justification the number of cranes that NHAS must hire in order to operate optimally each working day. Determine with justification the number of cranes that NHAS must hire in order to operate optimally each working day. And you have a hint for that question? Hint. The objective of chewing theory of chewing theory is to minimize expected total cost. The objective of chewing theory is to minimize total expected total cost. This is a hint for you. The objective of chewing theory is to minimize expected total cost. Please attempt this number before coming for exams, for end of semester examinations. I will be sending to you the coursework for this course through your course leader via email shortly before Christmas. Because time is not in our favor, that one concludes what we need to do given the constraints at present. It concludes the topic of weighting models. So let's go to another topic, a new topic which we call inventory control models. Inventory control models. Inventory control models. And we begin with an introduction. And you can say at this stage, it is important to note that procurement inventory management are major areas. They are major areas, or they are disciplines of logistics management. They are part of logistics management. Logistics management. So this is the reason why we are doing inventory control models. We are doing it because it's part of what you need to understand or what you need to know in logistics management. Remember, your course is transportation. You are doing transportation and logistics management. So in that other component of your course, logistics, involves procurement and inventory management. So let's look at inventory control models. And we begin, or I take you to a definition. Let's have a definition. Inventory is defined as any stored resource. Inventory is defined as any stored resource that is used to satisfy a current or future need. Examples include raw materials, finished goods, work in progress, stroke process, etc. Let's look at the importance or roles of inventory. And the first one is buffer. Acting as a buffer. Inventory can act as a buffer, especially in the manufacturing processes. Full stop. If you do not have inventory in the manufacturing processes, there could be delays and inefficiencies. Some manufacturing processes are such that one stage is an input to another stage. One stage is an input to another stage. You could find stage 1 input stage 2, input stage 3, and up to the final product. Maybe this is the final product. Now, if it happens, and you see this is like clockwork, if you have workers working on stage 1, there should also be workers working on stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. It should be a continuous process. Otherwise, you don't have to say workers finish stage 1, then they go to stage 2, then they go to stage 3, especially for big industries or big specialized manufacturing. This is a continuous chain of production. So if it so happens, for example, because stage 2, for example, feeds in stage 3, now you need the products of stage 2 to be able to start process 3. Now, if it so happens that, for example, there is a shortage or there is a breakdown at stage 2. Now, if there is a breakdown at stage 2, the people at stage 1 will continue producing. But if stage 2 is not doing its part, then it cannot feed into stage 3. Now, if it cannot feed into stage 3, maybe there is a machinery breakdown on stage 2, then it would mean that actually if these people cannot process what is available, what has been input by stage 1, then they can no longer feed, stage 2 can no longer feed into stage 3. Now, if stage 2 does not feed into stage 3, then it means that people in stage 3 will be idle. There will be no more production process here. If there is no production process here, it means that even there may be no production process in stage 4, and the whole manufacturing process will come to a standstill. But if it so happens that even in the presence of like a crash, a crash here in stage 2. There is a crash. There is a crash. If it happened that there is a crash at stage 2, but if you had some stock kept, in other words, if you had some excess materials that had been kept at stage 2, if there is a failure at stage 2, you can pick something from the stocks that you had kept, which is an inventory, and then feed into stage 3, and the process will continue. And up to the time when you are able to restore functionality at stage 2, and then you continue processing inputs coming from stage 1. So you need something to fall back to actually continue the process of manufacturing. Now, what you fall back to here is what we call the buffer. It's what we call the buffer. It acts as a buffer. It acts as a buffer between the two stages in the case of a breakdown at stage 2, so that the process can continue as a chain. So we could write and say, if a manufacturing process has to be completed before a second activity can be started, then such a thing could stop the entire production process if there is a breakdown at one of the stages. On the other hand, however, if you have some stored inventory, then it could act as a buffer between these two processes, and then production will not stop with the subsequent stages. The second function of inventory or role of inventory the second role of inventory is store of resources. So you can keep your resources in a form of inventory. You can keep your resources in a form of inventory. For example, finished goods or raw materials or work in process can be storing value. Inventory is a store of value. So you can store your value. Instead of storing your value in terms of money in the bank, you can store your value in terms of inventory. Inventory can have inventory of finished goods. You could have inventory of timber, for example, as raw material. You could have an inventory of chairs or tables waiting to be sold, and you are keeping your value. So inventory is a store of resources or a store of value. The other one is irregular. Irregular supply or demand. So again, in this case, inventory can be used to cater for irregular demand. For example, if all of a sudden there is an increased demand for an item, if the manufacturing process cannot be able to take care of that increased demand there and then, if you have inventory, stored inventory, then that inventory can be used to cater for this increased demand as the production process catches up with the increased demand, so that there's no shortage. There's no shortage or outage. So inventory can be used to cater for increased demand and so on. The other is quantity discounts. Quantity discounts. Quantity discounts. If you offer a discount, then it follows that the buyer will take more items than what he would take at the prevailing price. And you would need inventory to meet this increased amount purchased. I'll give you an example. Suppose a customer usually spends $100. The customer spends $100 on an item. A customer spends $100 on an item that costs, whose price is $2.5. It means that this customer normally takes 100 divided by 2.5. He normally takes 40 items. He normally takes 40 items with $100. Suppose it happens that you have given this customer, instead of a price of 2.5, you have reduced the price to $2. In other words, you have given him a discount of $0.5. You are very generous and you have given him a discount of $0.5. $0.5. Now, in this case, with his $100 that he had in the pocket, he would be able to take, these are the quantity that he takes, $2. So he would be able to take 50 units or 50 items. 50 items. Now, if he takes 50 items as a result of the discount, then it follows that actually you have given him, he needs 10 extra items. He needs 10 extra items. You need 10 extra items to fulfill your offer of a discount. So, if you don't have stock, or if you don't have inventory, if you don't have inventory stock, you will not be able to execute this offer. Because where will you get the 10 extra items if you have given a discount? So you need actually to have inventory in order to be able to honor quantity discounts. And another thing, the last use of inventory the last use of inventory is what you call avoiding or catering for avoiding stockouts or shortages. Avoiding stockouts or shortages. So another important function of inventory is to avoid shortages, stockouts. Because as I said, somebody might come with his money and say he wants say 100 items. But for you are only able to offer 80 items. So this is creating a shortage of 20 items. If you don't have stock somewhere which is stored, if you don't have inventory somewhere, then it means this person will not be satisfied. This customer will go with a shortage of 20 items. Next time he will need to come back to a shop. So, an important function of inventory is to avoid stockouts or shortages. If you are repeatedly out of stock, customers are likely to go elsewhere to satisfy their needs. And in this process of going elsewhere, you lose what you call goodwill. In this process, you lose goodwill. You lose goodwill of customers, which is a very expensive price to pay. For not having the right item at the right time. So there are some of the important functions of inventory. Let's look at inventory decision questions. Inventory decision questions. Inventory decision questions. For long, managers have recognized that good inventory control is very important. As we have just mentioned, inventory fulfills many important functions within an organization. Inventory fulfills many important functions within an organization. On one hand, as inventory levels go up, to cater for these functions, then the cost of storing and keeping this inventory also increases. In other words, as you plan to cater for these functions of inventory, the cost of storing, the cost of keeping and holding this inventory increases. On the other hand, a firm or a businessman can try to reduce costs by reducing on the on-hand inventory levels. You can cut costs by reducing the on-hand inventory levels. In this process, customers could end up becoming satisfied. In this process, customers could end up becoming dissatisfied when frequent inventory stockouts, when frequent inventory outages or stockouts occur or happen. Full stop. Consequently, there is a need for a balance between low. There is a need for a balance between low and high levels of inventory. In other words, there's some level of inventory at which you break even, or the most optimal inventory. You should not keep too much, neither should you keep too little. So what's that inventory? Full stop. This balance between too much inventory and too little inventory can be achieved when we rationally obtain answers to the two fundamental inventory questions. Namely, how much and when to order. These are the two fundamental inventory questions: how much and when to order. Like I've told you, through those many functions, we need to maintain a level of inventory. Because we want to provide certain functions, we have to maintain a certain level of inventory. When we keep so much, there are storage costs associated with it. Storage, insurance, name it. When we keep too little, there is a likelihood that we are going to cause shortages and customers will run away from you. So you need to maintain some equilibrium, some level of equilibrium. Not too much, not too little, so you must balance the two. And you can balance that when you are able to rationally answer the questions of how much and when to order. Full stop. In answering these questions, the primary objective is always to minimize. The objective in answering these questions is to minimize total expected costs. We have to minimize total expected costs. Full stop. Answering these questions is the primary role of nearly all inventory models. Obtaining answers to these questions is the primary role. It is the primary or major role. You can say major role of all inventory control models stroke techniques. So we are saying that obtaining questions, obtaining answers to these fundamental questions of how much and when to order are the goals. They are the goals of inventory control models. So let's look at the economic order. Economic order quantity. Economic order quantity model. The economic order quantity model. And you can say the economic order quantity model is one of the models, stroke techniques, that provides answers to these inventory decision questions. It is one of those models or techniques that gives answers to these inventory models of how much and when to order. The model is one of the oldest and most commonly known inventory control models, and research on its use, research on the use of this model dates as far back as 1915. As far back as 1915, with a publication by Ford Harris, with a publication by Ford Harris. So this model is as old as that. Full stop. The model is still used by a large number of organizations to this date, up to date. The model is still used by a large number of organizations up to this day. So it has been as relevant as more than 100 years ago. For more than 100 years, it is still as relevant as it was then as it is today. So let's look at assumptions. Assumptions of the model. Assumptions. Number one, demand is known and constant. Demand is known and constant. Number two, the lead time, i.e., the time between the placement of the order and the receipt of that order, is known and constant. Demand is constant, lead time is constant. Demand is constant, lead time is constant. Demand, known and constant. Lead time, known and constant. The receipt of inventory is instantaneous, i.e., the inventory from an order arrives in one batch at one point in time. Inventory from an order arrives in one batch at one point in time. Inventory instantaneous. Receipt instantaneous. Number four, quality discounts are not allowed. No quantity discounts, no quantity discounts. No quantity discounts. Number five, the only variable costs are the costs of ordering, which we call ordering costs. Variables are ordering costs, and storage costs, storage stroke holding, carrying, we call them carrying or holding costs. The variable costs are ordering costs and storage stroke carrying or holding costs. Number six, there are no stockouts or shortages. There are no stockouts, stroke shortages. No stockouts or shortages. So, these are the assumptions of this model. So how does this model these are the assumptions. How does the model answer the questions? Answering the fundamental questions. Answering the fundamental questions. Fundamental questions. How does this model answer these questions? And we begin with how much? How much? So you can say, as we have just mentioned, the objective of most inventory models is to minimize expected total costs. From these assumptions, it would follow that minimizing total inventory costs is the same thing. Minimizing total inventory costs is the same thing as minimizing the total variable costs. Even not just from the assumptions, even from the principles of economics, we know that if we are to minimize costs, by minimizing variable costs is as good as minimizing total costs. So in this case, the variable costs, as we have stated, are the cost of ordering and the cost of holding, or what you call storage or carrying. Those are terms which are used interchangeably. So in this case, if we are to answer this question or to apply this model, whose objective is to minimize total costs, then we shall be minimizing the sum of ordering. We shall be minimizing ordering plus storage costs. Because we have said that minimizing total cost is as good as minimizing variable costs, total variable costs. So there are two ways of answering these questions of how much. And there are two ways of answering the questions, and these are the graphical. One is the graphical method. The graphical method. And the other one is the algebra. The algebra method. Algebra method, as I will show you. So let's look at the graphical method. The graphical method of answering these questions. The graphical method of answering this question graphically. So we can say graphically. This is achieved, or this is approached by graphing the order quantity. We graph the order quantity order quantity. Order quantity Q against the costs versus costs which is order cost plus holding or storage, then this is the total cost and the individual costs. Individual costs of these two, i.e. ordering and storage costs. So we are going to illustrate it as follows. This can be illustrated as follows. Order quantity here. Order quantity. Costs. Now, as the order quantity increases, what happens to ordering cost? What happens to ordering cost? Now, suppose you had 100 items. You can order these in the batches of 10, 10, and so on. And this would be how many batches? It will be times 10. Times 10 batches. The order cost. Now, you would have to make 10 orders in order to make 100 items. Now, if you look at making an order may involve things like invoicing, things like telephone calls, and you may find actually that when you make an order of 10, the invoicing and there may be telephone calls and what have you is the same thing. It's not different from, making an order of 100 items or 50 items. The invoicing is the same. So you will find actually that the cost of a small item is almost the cost as. So you will find that the cost of ordering 10 is nearly close to the cost of ordering 100. But because you are ordering 10 times, these costs will be multiplied 10 times. So as the order quantity, when the order quantity is small, the ordering costs are high. When the order quantity increases, in other words, when you increase, say, from 100 to 50 items, these 50 will be 50, 50, and we do them twice. Or if you increase 25, you need 25, 25, 25, 25. And here the cost will be, and here you are multiplying by 4. So you can see here the cost is 4 times. Here the cost is twice. Here the cost is 10 times. And when you order 100 items once, the cost is almost 1. So you will discover that as the order quantity, when the order quantity is small, the cost tends to be higher. But as the order quantity increases, the cost of ordering becomes less and less. They become less and less from this illustration. Here, the order quantity, you have ordered 10 times. If you need 100 items, you order 10 times. So the order quantity becomes bigger and bigger. But when you order once, the cost of ordering becomes less. When you order 10 times, the cost of ordering becomes higher by 10 times. So at raw order quantities, this side, this is 0, the cost is high. At bigger order quantities, the cost of ordering is lower. So there is this slope, downward sloping curve. So this is order cost. Order cost. Now, order cost becomes lower and lower. Now, when the order items or the quantity ordered is less, the order quantity is small, then the cost of storage, becomes smaller. Because if you have to keep like 10 items, you need a small space. But if you have to keep, say, like 50 items, then you need bigger space. If you have to keep 100 items, then the space even becomes bigger. So in this case, when the order quantity increases, the cost of storage becomes bigger. When the order quantity is small, the storage cost is smaller. So there is this relationship. This is storage. Storage or holding, or what you call carrying. Carrying costs. So that the costs, these costs are total, then ordering as well as storage costs. Now, the sum of these two, when you add them up, the sum of these two, which is the total cost, as you can see, for example, at this point, you are adding this amount, this point, then beside this amount, you are also adding from here up to there, you are adding this amount. So you are somewhere there. From at this point, you would be adding this amount of storage cost. Then you will also need to add an amount of order cost, which is from here to there, down. So you will be somewhere there. It is only here where you are adding the same amount. The same amount of order cost and the same amount of storage cost will be added at this point. Then at this point, the order cost has become small, but the storage cost has become bigger. So you'll be adding this amount plus the other amount there. So you'll be adding this plus that one, and it will go up again. The result of all those actions will end up giving you, they will end up giving you a U-shaped curve. A U-shaped curve of that nature. This is total cost. Total cost. This is ordering, and you could say maybe this is storage. Storage cost. So total cost, which is simply O plus S. It is O plus S, total cost. And as you can see, its minimum is at this point. This is the minimum. That's the minimum point, which has a corresponding cost here. C star. So its minimum is at that point. Its minimum is at that point, 2 star. This is the order quantity. Now, let's explain these relationships. I hope you know how to read the graphs. So let's look at the relationships. Relationships. Number one, as the order quantity increases, As the order quantity increases. So we are moving from 0, the order quantity is increasing in that direction. As it increases, the ordering cost decreases. Of course, this implies an inverse relationship. Inverse or negative. This means it's an inverse or negative relationship. And you can say hence the downward sloping order cost curve. Number 2, again, as the order quantity increases, the storage cost also increase. The storage cost also increases, implying a direct or positive relationship. A positive relationship, and hence the upward sloping curve. Upward sloping storage cost curve. Storage cost curve. Upward sloping storage cost curve. Relationship number 3. The sum of the two. When you add this plus that is a U-shaped curve. It is a U-shaped total cost curve. Total cost curve whose minimum occurs at 2 star. Whose minimum occurs at 2 star, the order quantity, which is 2 star. Now, we have said that the objective of inventory control models is to minimize total costs. Now, that objective, so this is the point. This is the point where the objective of inventory models of minimizing total cost is achieved. This is the point where the objective of minimizing total cost is achieved. And in this case, of course, Q star is the optimal order quantity. Q star is the optimal order quantity. This is the optimal order quantity. Q star is the optimal order quantity. The optimal order quantity, which gives us the answer of how much to order. How much to order. So it gives us the answer of how much to order. It is at that point, it is at Q star that we should be placing our orders. I mean, how much it is Q star that should be our optimal order quantity. Q star is optimal order quantity. Optimal order quantity. Now, when to order, the question of when to order. Now, from these assumptions of this model, inventory usage, the use of inventory over time, is a saw-teeth. It is saw-teeth shaped. It is like this. This is time. This is quantity. It is so teeth shaped. This one is our Q star, or order quantity. This is 0. So over time, remember, this inventory is received instantaneously. It jumps from nothing to this. It is spent up to this point. By the time it becomes nothing, it's exhausted. It jumps up again to this level of order quantity. It is spent again downwards at a certain rate. When it reaches here, has been ordered and is instantaneously received. It jumps up again. So over time, from these assumptions, this is what we have. Now, to answer the question of when it order, of course, this when it order does not happen instantaneously as such. That you order instantaneously and things come instantaneously. There is what we call the lead time. The time it takes between placing an order and when that order is received. Now, if we take one section of that, this is time, this is quantity. Let's just take one section. One section with the tooth. Now, there is a lead time here. This is what we call the lead time. We don't wait for the inventory to be zero, because instantaneous receival would be a miracle. In real life, we have what we call the lead time, and this is the time between the placement of an order and when that order is received. So what we normally do is, if this is our quantity Q star, at this level is the order point, and this is our zero. So what happens is, as this inventory is being used, it is being used at a certain rate. The slope here is rate of inventory usage. Rate of inventory usage. Rate of inventory usage, which can be expressed as D. It is expressed as D, the rate of inventory usage is called D. Now, when this inventory is received, it is used at a certain rate. It is used at a certain rate. When it reaches a certain level of inventory, we are supposed to make an order. When we make that order, then as this inventory is being used at that rate, we expect that by the time it reaches here, within this time, which is L, the new order will have arrived. Once it arrives, then it will automatically go up again. So there is what we call the lead time. ROP is the reorder point. Reorder point. L is the lead time. The lead time. L is the lead time. So the lead time is the time taken when the order is placed and when it is received. So ROP, the reorder time, the reorder point, is the amount of inventory at which we need to know that actually we have now received like a warning, inventory is running out, we should make an order. So it's at that point that we make an order, that within this time of L, the order will have come back. The order will have arrived, and once it arrives, the whole process, the sawtooth process continues. So the order point, the question of when to order, the order point is at that point or that level of inventory when we need to make an order. So at that level of inventory, we place an order. Once that order has been placed, then within that time L, given the rate at which it is being used, this inventory will have arrived. Once it has arrived, it will arrive at the same time when the inventory is getting finished, the old stock is getting finished, and then it will rise again instantaneously, as I was saying, go up to the other level of 2, which is the order quantity, and then the process will repeat itself without end. And this effectively answers the question of when-it order. The when-it order question is answered not in terms of time, but in terms of the level of stock. The when-it order, we make an order when. So you can say the question of when-it order is not answered in terms of time, it is answered in terms of stock. And we make an order. In other words, we make an order when the level of stock reaches the order point, the level of ROP, the order point level. That's when we make an order. As I've said, these questions are now answered. They are now answered graphically, but they can also be answered algebraically. We can answer these questions algebraically. Algebraically. And you can say the fundamental questions of how much and when it order can also be answered algebraically. They can be answered algebraically, but because of the time constraint, we are not going to go into the details of deriving these formulas. We are simply going to quote them. In the case of how much to answer, how much to order, how much. The question of how much. The formula is as follows. Formula. Let Q equal to the order quantity. Order quantity. Let D equal to annual demand. Annual or periodic demand. Periodic demand. This is small d. CO B the ordering cost. Ordering cost. And CH B equal to the storage carrying stroke storage cost. Storage cost. The storage cost. Then it follows that how much to order. It follows that Q is equal to the square root of 2D CO divided by CH. Of course, which is the same thing as this, as 2D CO divided by CH. H the power half. The power half. How much? For the question of when it order. When it order. Question when it order. Second, so let ROP be the reorder point, reorder point, R, the yield time. D, the rate of inventory usage. Rate of inventory usage. The rate of inventory usage. Then ROP is simply equal to R times D. It's R times D. It is R times D. Let's take an example and see how we can apply these formulas. Example. Murago National Referral Hospital imports a certain medical kit. Imports a certain medical kit that is used in the diagnosis of breast cancer. And the annual demand for this kit is 4,000 units. 4,000 units. Annual demand 4,000 units. 4,000 units. This is annual demand. Full stop. The cost of each kit is $100. Each kit is $100. Each kit. And the inventory storage or carrying cost is estimated at 20%. 20% of the cost of each kit. So inventory cost, storage cost Storage cost is 20%. 20% of 100. Full stop. Morago Hospital has made a study of the costs involved in placing an order and has concluded that the average ordering cost is $25 per order. Order cost is $25 per order. Order cost. The order cost $25 per order. In addition, it takes on average 1.5 weeks for an order to arrive from the supplier, and during this time, the demand per week, that is inventory usage per week. Inventory usage per week is approximately 30 units. Inventory usage per week is 30 units. Inventory usage 30 units. Requirement: determine the following. 1, the economic order quantity. Number 1, determine CHU. Number 2, the economic order quantity, CHU-star, that is CHU-star. Number 2, the reorder point. Determine the reorder point, ROP. Now, for the economic order quantity, CHU, the formula is here. If the formula is here, we need to establish what are the D's, and we need to establish what is D, what is CO, what is CH. Now, from the data that we have been given, D is equal to, this is a solution. I need to write it somewhere. Please keep the so annual demand D, we are looking at the solution. D is equal to 4,000. CO is already given to us. It is 25. CH is a percentage of the unit price. CH is 20% of 100 of the unit price, which is, this is of 100, which is itself $20. It's $20, that is CH. So what we need to do is simply substitute in the formula. Substitute and we get Q. So we substitute in 2 here, and we shall get Q is equal to square root of 2 times 4,000 times 25 divided by 20. This one and that, this one and this. And then we're remaining with square root of 10,000. Square root of 10,000, giving us a Q of 100. 100 units is the optimal order quantity. For ROP, this is the optimal order quantity. For ROP, ROP is equal to L times D. Now, L is equal to 1.5 weeks, 1.5 weeks. D, inventory usage, is 30 units per 30 units per week. So ROP is simply L times D, which will be 1.5. So this will be 1.5 times 30, and that gives us 45 units. That's the reorder point, which answers the question of how much and when to order. There are so many aspects of inventory models, but unfortunately, due to the time constraints, we cannot go beyond this. Take these examples, revise them, master them, and apply them in real life. Not just for passing exams, but also for real life applications. Thank you very much.